All right, we're recording now. We're with Alana. I've
Alana.
already, I've already forgotten. Alana Kelleher with Alana Kelleher Design, interior design, right?
That's right.
And you live in Toronto?
Yes. So we're based in Toronto,
Mm,
Canada, and we do design all over globally. We do either online and sometimes travel if that's necessary, but the majority of our clients are based in the GTA, which is Greater Toronto Area.
okay.
So
How'd you get into that?
design in general or the Greater Toronto Area?
Both. Why not?
I would say I was actually a personal support worker for disabled children.
Hmm.
Um, and I was doing that for quite a while. And then I decided to go to college. I was going to do personal support work. And then I sort of leafed through the catalog and I found that interior design was something you could do. And I didn't even think that was an option. So I thought, I'll just do one or two courses just for fun. We'll just kind of see how it goes. And it was a couple of decades ago. So
Yeah.
I think it went well.
Yeah.
And then for Toronto, I'm originally from Newfoundland. That's a sort of an out of the way remote island, which a lot of people might not be familiar with.
Hmm.
Recently, we did make the news. The Daily Beast mentioned that hundreds of United passengers were stranded in a remote, snowy island. And that's pretty accurate. That's pretty
I
accurate.
remember I remember seeing that here recently.
Yeah, so that's my island right there.
Yeah, that's
And I
interesting.
left I left there and I came to Toronto. It's just a bigger center for everything.
Is
Design.
Newfoundland part of Canada or is it its own country?
We're part of Canada, but it's sort of a tricky question because in a lot of ways we sort of are our own country because we have our own dialect, our own food, and it's like I mentioned, sort of remote. So
But
you
you were able to pick up and move without like a paperwork,
yeah,
visas, this, that, and the, okay. All right.
exactly. We were the last to join Confederation. So when my parents were born, we weren't Canadian.
Hmm. Oh, okay.
But we did join not that long ago and within recent memory. And so now, yeah, we are part of Canada. And I do still have people in Toronto who say, like, when did you get to Canada? They still think we're not part of Canada, but we are. So
Is
yeah.
I guess I've never really given much thought about Newfoundland. Is it
No,
Newfoundland or
a lot of
Newfoundland?
people don't. It's not just you. We're sort of forgotten out there in the, although, fun fact, we are the coast that the Titanic sunk off of. So
Yeah, yeah,
and
I
the
remember
Titan
that.
submersible that went looking for the Titanic. So it's a dangerous area. You should be careful out there.
Yeah, no kidding. Especially the one that exploded a few years ago.
That's it, the
That's
Titan,
yeah,
the
yeah, the time.
submersible.
Gotcha, gotcha, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I guess like I said, I've never really thought much about it. I'm assuming, I guess now that I think about it, the national language is English. It wouldn't be a different language. Like Greenland has their own language, right?
Technically, it is English,
Mm.
but it depends on how far away from the city you get to how easy it is to understand.
Because you don't even really have the traditional Canadian accent that I think of when I listen when I listen to or hear Canadians or even like people from the northern states like Minnesota or something like they have Minnesota, Maine, all across that area. They have a really distinct accent, you know.
It's an interesting point because I've often thought of that myself. I myself have sort of moved and lived in a number of places and also traveled down to the States quite a bit. So it could be that I don't have that specific Canadian dialect, but I've also noticed that those northern states sound more Canadian than the Canadians do.
They're more Canadian than Canadians. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
I'm like, when we are in Canada, we don't really sound like that. So, but I can
Mhm.
imagine how people would think that the more north you go, but it sort of gets a little bit more American as you get more north.
Maybe maybe it's the boundaries where that strip where the two countries combine. Maybe that's where
Could
the
be.
language is, the accent is, and then the farther
It
away you
could
get
be.
from it, yeah,
I'm
maybe
pretty
that's it.
close to that border, though. I could get to that border in about 30 minutes.
Can
So,
you? Okay.
yeah, I'm
I've never
pretty
been to
close.
Canada. I've been up north. I've been to the northern states, but I've never actually physically been to Canada.
You have to come. You have to come. To
I'd
great
like to.
people.
I would like to.
It's
I
a
really, Vancouver is actually like one of the places I've always wanted to go. Like it's like,
yes.
but I've just never made it happen.
You have to do
So,
it. You have
mm.
to make the trip.
So interior design, is your business, you people, I'm assuming people contract to you and show you their layout, their house, their business, whatever they need, and you fulfill whatever they need, like color schemes, paints, floors, walls, whatever, or is it
Yes.
more personalized than that?
Well, no, it's that, but then
Mhm.
personalized for the client,
Gotcha.
specific to the taste. So for my part in it, which is I'm glad you brought that up because it is something that I wanted to mention on the podcast,
Hmm.
is that you likely have a lot of contractors and installers, and you're looking at it more from that technical perspective.
Yeah.
But a lot of people really need an interior designer, but they don't know why they need them. They
Hmm.
don't know how they would benefit in having one, and they don't know how to find one, right?
Yeah.
So, one of the reasons I mentioned being from Newfoundland is because the design community has, with some good reason, that intimidation factor where people often don't want a designer to come into their home because I've heard time and time again that the designer is going to tell them, this is horrible, get rid of this, I don't like this, and that they're going to be very bossy and they're going to, really change your design direction. And that's really not the case. A good designer is going to bring your vision to life. They're going to come into your space and see, okay, this is a more modern home, this is a more traditional home. So my job is to, just like you said, if it's flooring that you need or if it's a wall color that you need, I mean, it could literally be anything. We find everything for our clients. Sometimes it's just a client who is looking. I had a client recently, it put me in mind because I took out my crystal and I had a client who was looking for very specific crystal dinnerware. It was
Mhm.
to supplement a set that they already had. So a designer is a perfect person for that because we know the suppliers. I might even have certain clients that may actually have that, right?
Hmm.
Maybe want to get rid of or whatever it is. So it really depends on what the client needs. And then we base our services on your needs. So someone could come in and say, I really just need paint. I have one client, I've been working with her nearly 20 years. And every time I go back, she wants me to choose another shade of white for
Oh,
her. It's every time for 20 years, another shade of white. And last time I went, she chose the same shade of white that she chose previous to that.
is
So,
this the same location, or is she expanding into other locations, or is she
oh,
just
this is
every couple of
this is
years
her
just
same
repainting?
living room. Bless her,
Mm.
I love her. She's a great client. But that's what my point is. It's not for me to
Hmm.
come in. I mean, like I'm a person, I love color. I love classic design, but I really love to incorporate color and whatnot. But not if that's not what the client wants, right?
Yeah.
If a client wants white, I'm there to give you white. And I showed her a range of whites, and she really said, I really love this white that we already have. So we decided just to repaint the same white. And she was very happy. So it really depends on the client. If I were the client, I wouldn't be so happy if I had a designer come and all I ended up with was the same shade of white, but
Yeah, no kid.
to each their own. But to that point, that I was mentioning before, if you're looking at it from like a contractor's perspective, if you have, let's say you need a new floor, which happens. I mean, the floors, we say the fifth wall and the most used item because you're just constantly back and forth, kids, pets, friends, guests, everything, right?
Mhm.
If you have somebody who's just going to come in and say, I can replace your floor, just about anybody could replace your floor. That's not an issue, right? So you want someone who's going to come in and see your space and most of the time, I want to say 9 times out of 10, I'll have a client and they'll say, we've narrowed it down to two or three options and we just need you to like give us the okay.
Hmm.
When I go there, it's not any of those options.
Yeah.
So on one hand, it's good because you've checked
Hmm.
and I've given you the it's a
Yeah.
no from me. And I'm very honest, right? The reason why you want a designer is because a designer will come in and tell you the reasons you don't want that. If you ask your friend or your sister-in-law or your brother or your coworker, whoever it is, a lot of times they're really not going to tell you the truth, right? Like it seems like something you like, you're presenting it to them like, hey, look at this new floor I'm going to install. Oh, that's great, because everyone wants to be nice. They'll look beautiful. But a designer knows the reasons why that's not going to look beautiful. That's not your undertone. That style doesn't match your house.
Hmm.
That board width is out. We're not doing that width anymore. I don't like when a client redoes their whole main floor, for example, in flooring, and it's an outdated style that they've chosen. So it looks like you didn't redo your whole main floor,
Hmm.
right? So you want to invest your money in the best outcome, if you will. You want it to look like it was updated, but you also want to be careful. There's a fine line because you could update it and then everything else starts to look old. So you have to choose something that's if you have a more traditional home with older items, it's not a good idea to choose a very wide, gray, trendy floor.
Yeah.
Most
Uh,
of your furniture is brown,
not to cut you off, but to back up maybe just a little bit, what walk us through starting your business. Like you went to school for interior design and it
Yes,
turned into turned into what you are now, but
yes.
walk us through like the first, initial, like how did you start it and what did it take and what kind of I'm sure it took sacrifices to get to where you're at right now.
It's still taking sacrifices. I'm
Yeah.
sacrificing right now.
Hmm.
I'm kidding. So originally, I always wanted to start. I've just been that kind of person. I always wanted to start at the top.
Hmm.
So I found who was the top in design. And when I was very young, I was still in school actually. And I wanted to be working and doing
Hmm.
things in the field. And I was just tired of, learning about it. I wanted to do it. So I started working. One of the first places I started working for was Ethan Allen. And
Yeah.
that was a very good opportunity for me. Not just because I met all the other senior designers on the team, and I actually still know most of them today, which is great. And actually, a couple of them still work for Ethan Allen, like 20 odd years later, which is a feat. But it was a name that opened a lot of doors for me. So I started working. I thought it would be a good idea when I was young to work in sort of every aspect. So I worked for flooring stores, I worked for paint stores, I worked for the flooring store would have like different tiles, mosaic tiles, and we would interact with contractors and stuff like that. So you'd have to be familiar with the different mortars and grouts and what you would recommend for clients. So I started in a technical sense, sort of from the ground up. I worked for home builders. I worked for furniture companies. Like I sort of did the whole gamut. And while I was in school and working part time, I had people say to me, "Oh, could you come and pick a paint for me? Can you come and do this?" And when I was very young, I would tell them no. Well, like, don't you know I'm still in school?
Hmm.
Why would you trust me to choose a paint color? But when you actually think about it, like I did 10 weeks of pure color, 3-hour lectures, 10 weeks. That's a lot of color. I think you could probably pick a color for my teacher would always say Mrs. Clothespeg or
You
whoever,
did
right?
10 weeks
That was just
on
color,
colors.
just color.
10
And it
weeks
was
on
funny
colors.
because in the first lecture, because I remember sort of laughing about it, thinking like, how much is there to know about color? And in the very first lecture, I even remember the teacher, and she said, I know you think this seems long, but I could lecture 3 hours for 10 weeks and we wouldn't even scratch the surface. And I remember thinking it was just so preposterous, but it's 100% accurate because I've been in the business now for decades and it feels like I still haven't got like a great grasp of all the different aspects. So
Well, I guess. I mean,
it's a lot. It's a
color
lot.
colors are art, so I mean, there's a lot that can go
Yeah.
there.
It's essentially it's the base for everything because you might have a great eye for detail and design, but if you don't have those undertones right,
Hmm.
it's all off and you won't have to have a background in design to see it. You'll walk into the space and you'll feel off.
Hmm.
Something about this doesn't feel right and it'll be the undertones.
Yeah.
So after I had sort of worked all these areas and people were asking me if I could, do work for them in their home, there was just like a light bulb moment, which said, like, why wouldn't I go? Why,
Hmm.
why can't I? Because I was working these part-time jobs in these different like flooring stores and paint stores and furniture stores, but I wasn't a full designer. I didn't have a title and a position of designer. And I couldn't get that. Everybody, it's a very difficult industry. It's very competitive. And
Hmm.
you have to remember, like every June, there's a new class of hundreds, thousands probably graduates who are coming flooding the industry, right? So
Hmm.
I couldn't at that time get a mentor. I couldn't get anyone to, give me any pointers. They seemed very, I don't know, almost, which I sort of understand it now. They work alone, right? Like it's not really a team kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's difficult. And they're very busy. So it's difficult to find someone to mentor you and whatnot. But I just sort of hung out my shingle and it went from there. I would work at places like the flooring store is a perfect example. Not too far away actually from where I live now. I made an arrangement with the owner where I would come in on Saturdays and he would allow me to hand out my card and I would offer free design consultations on Saturdays for his clients. So it worked out great for us,
Hmm.
both mutually. He would put advertising out, Saturdays, design consultation, complimentary design consultation between like 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock. And it was popular. We had a lot of people coming in, and I got a lot of clients that way. So I would hand out my card, and because I'm helping them there in the store, they have a sense of familiarity with me and they're already comfortable with me coming to their home because that's another aspect of having a designer, right? Like it is a stranger in your home.
Hmm.
So it
So
really
you
depends.
already have a pre-established relationship, like, hey, we're buying flooring.
Exactly.
I also do interior design, and that's just a foot in the door. I gotcha. And so, did at what point did you finally say, you know what, and I think I can do this interior design by itself. I don't need the other jobs. I don't need. At what point did you get to that?
That's such a good question because the other jobs sort of turned into collaborations like that, where I
Mhm.
would know the owner and we would continue
Mhm.
to cross promote. So I would say I'm still even doing that
You're still
now.
doing it.
Well,
Okay.
even with the podcast, like here I
Yeah.
am, right? I'm not
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
a podcaster. I'm not even a social media person, really. I'm actually a very private person,
Yeah.
but I'm trying and I'm branching out, and I think that's what it's about, right? It's
What?
about and
Yeah. No, for sure. Like that's how you do things. I mean, networking. Networking is to me has been one of the biggest things that's ever helped me is just talking to people, getting to know people. Even if it's just when I'm out and about, like if I'm shopping at a store and like a lot of my business is commercial and retail. Um, if I'm shopping or at a restaurant and their floor looks like they could use some help, I can't
Mhm.
help myself. I have to say, like, hey, would you guys, here's my card. This is what I do. Would you guys be interested? You know, whoever's making this decision, here's my card. And it works. So, what year? I
I
know
was
you
just
said you've
gonna
been
say
in it for a long
I
time.
do that also. Sometimes I'm driving and
Yeah.
I'll see. And it's just, I just have to stop and stick my card, or I'll write a little note. Like I have
Yeah, yeah.
the perfect color for your garage. Call
I'll
me.
do I'll do something similar where I'll be driving past places, and if I can see their floor, I'll be like, I'll make a mental note like I need to go eat there, regardless of what the food is. Like I need to go eat there just so I can talk to them about their floor. I'll do the same thing. So,
Yeah.
what year did you actually get started in all this? What year? I guess what year did you go to school for it?
Ooh, such a good question. See, I'm sort of past that age of where I remember exact ages. I'm sort of like
Yeah, yeah.
decade
Just
was somewhere,
generalization.
yeah, it was somewhere around 2000,
Okay,
without giving away too close my age, but somewhere around 2000.
I gotcha. Yeah. Well,
It's been a couple of decades now that I've
and
been
so
in the business.
now, so you started networking by smaller jobs with these specific things like painting and flooring and furniture. Here we are now. How's the company doing now? Are you by yourself? Do you have employees? Do you
We're
what does
doing
the books like now?
we're doing so much better now. It's a completely different, like I would say it's a completely different company now from
Hmm.
when it was really just me.
Hmm.
Because when I was starting out, it really was just me. I would go and I would do the design aspect,
Hmm.
but I wouldn't do any of the actual work. I would just give them the plan.
Hmm.
I could source it for them. If it's a certain tile we chose, this is where you purchase it. This is how much it is per square foot. This is the grout, whatever you need. But I had so many people saying, I don't know where to find a contractor. Like, I don't trust anyone.
Yeah.
I don't want to just pull someone out of the yellow pages. Like, please, like, just recommend someone. Don't you have someone? And I heard that over and over again. And after a while, I started thinking to myself, I'm really losing out myself as a business owner on a large portion of the job, because if I'm the one dictating all of the fixtures and finishes and it's completely my design,
Hmm.
there's no reason why I couldn't be involved in other aspects. I don't run a project from start to finish per se. I became involved. I met my contractor, who I smile when I talk about it because he's quite a character. But we've been working together now for well over 10 years. I want to say it's probably closer to 15, but let's say 10. And he's a great guy. Trying to even remember. Oh, I actually met him at that flooring store.
Hmm.
He came in long, long time ago, and he had a client with him. So this is actually a perfect story. He had a client with him, and he was showing them some type of tile. And I'm maybe slightly opinionated, and I sometimes maybe share that with others. And I was there, and he was showing them some things that were
No es
not,
bueno, huh?
yes, muy less bueno.
Yeah.
So I said, and I don't try. Of course, I'm not going to do it in an unprofessional way, but I just sort of said, like, since I'm here, I could show you a couple of options of things, and then, you'll make the final decision. We'll put them side by side, and I'll explain to you the reasons why you might want to consider these other options.
Hmm.
So I did that, and they loved the design and they were very happy. I spent probably about an hour with them, and he was just sort of there on the side observing. And he said, I would love to have a designer that I could refer clients to, or that we could meet sort of in that similar manner, that we could say, I have a client. Can you meet me at the appliance store, and we'll go through Miele appliances and look for a dishwasher, whatever it is, right? Because even with a dishwasher, it has to be aesthetic, right? Like, it still has to blend in,
Yeah.
finishes, and then you have to get into the technical aspect also, like what does the client want in an appliance, things like that. And it's been my experience that contractors, like, they're great, bless them, but they want to get in and get out. They want to
Yes.
know,
Yes, they
you
do.
know, this is the floor, this is the grout, we're having a herringbone pattern, and that's it.
Hmm.
They're less interested in having a client who's like, we don't know what we want.
Hmm.
Here's a couple of pictures, and each picture is completely different.
Hmm.
Like, as a contractor, that's like their worst nightmare. They don't have time to go to the store and what was it? My contractor says, hold their hand,
Hmm.
while they browse 1,000 samples. And what often ends up happening is when you go to a store and you don't have a designer or any direction yourself with your design or your plan, you become very overwhelmed. There's thousands of options, and when you go in, you think like, wow, I could really have anything. But as a designer, when I go into that store looking for something for you,
Hmm.
it's like two options.
Yeah.
Like
I
I'm
like to
going
do,
to
I like
like,
to
no,
just give
no,
people
no,
like
no, that's it.
I like to give people like my most popular options. Like I got this one and I have this one. These are my two most populars. If you like those, great. I have them in stock. Let's do it. If you don't like those, we got other options too. But yeah, I may
Hey,
have to.
Roger.
I got to get them. And usually,
Exactly.
I
And
would
then how?
say 75 to 85% of the time they go with these two, just because one of these two, because I have them in stock. I can do it. I can do it right now if you want to.
It's true. And they're trusting you too because you're saying, like, this is very popular. I've installed it. It looks good.
Hmm.
So the people say, okay, if it's a neutral, we'll go with it. But then we come back to those undertones, right? Like, what if A or B was not the undertone, right, in
Yep.
this person's house? And it's such a little thing, but it's such a big thing.
Hmm.
So you have to, even when we're in the store,
Hmm.
even if, and this is exactly how it works, I'll go and I'll choose, usually for just on my side to bring back to the office, I'll choose probably 5 or 10.
Hmm.
But I'll only bring 3 or 4 to the client. But I need to bring them back to the office. I need to lay them out with the paint. I need to look at everything all together. And then I'll, narrow it down. But then, even then, I have to bring it to the client's house because I have to see it in their space with their other fixtures and finishes just to be sure. Right. Like
Yeah.
I've ordered things online and they come and they're just not quite right. And I'm a perfectionist, which is a bonus in this job.
Hmm.
But I really love like it has to be, a lot of people say, oh, like it's close enough. I'm not a close enough person. It either is perfect or we're not doing it. So
Gotcha.
I had a
So,
client.
so
Oh,
it
sorry.
kind of circling back around again. Um, are you on your own still, or do you have a team
Well, it's
of
still us.
it's
So yes, thank you for bringing me back. So it's
yeah, yeah.
still this contractor and I. We've still been working together, and we've become more of a team. At first, we just sort of referred each other and we
Hmm.
were separate. And then we became more like we're a team. So when we get a new client, we'll go together. Because
Hmm.
before I used to say, like, I have a client who, needs a basement renovation. Like, what day are you free? And he would go, and I would have gone on a different day to do the consultation. And we were like, what are we doing? We should just go together because it's more professional. We show up together, we take notes together, we take photos together, we bounce ideas off of each other together. And most times it'll be a phone call a week later saying, was there 3 doors in there? Was there 2 doors in there? Do you remember this? Was that
Hmm.
ceiling low? Like we have to kind of bounce off of each other. Like, did you take a photo of that little alcove? Because I missed that one around the corner. And so it's great. But he has a great sense of humor. He's Jamaican.
Hmm.
Um, and he's just like the best.
Yeah.
And we have, a lot of fun together working. And then our clients love us. Obviously, you want to have people in your home working on your home that you trust and are, not cursing and,
Yeah.
not that we don't curse every now and then something goes wrong, but,
Yeah. Just
comfortable with
just
each
being
other,
professional. I gotcha.
laughing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'm assuming, he as the general contractor, he finds the plumbers, he finds the electricians, he finds the flooring installers, or does he encompass all that?
So yes and no.
Mhm.
Certainly he does have a full team that he works with, but then because I've gotten busier, I've branched out and I also have people independent because sometimes what happens, like if I'm going to do a full service, like we were talking basements,
Mhm.
I would bring in my contractor. He would include my design time in his quote for the client and we would work that way. If I have a client who just needs someone who calls me and says, like, I need a new faucet or something just replaced,
Mhm.
I would use my plumber. So I wouldn't go through my contractor with his plumber because there would be a markup on that. That would cost, because he's just doing that one thing.
Yeah.
And also my contractors, they don't really like to do small jobs.
Mhm.
It doesn't sound like a great thing, but when people say like I have a little thing here, a little thing there, or a faucet, whatever, they're usually too busy for that.
Yeah.
So I do like to have people, and Facebook actually has been great for that. I've met some great people, plumbing actually in particular. I have a couple of really great plumbers that I met on Facebook. So, and one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast and other podcasts is because I have met people on Facebook who don't know me in person. And it's difficult to put a photo, just a still photo with a personality.
Yeah.
So, especially since I like some inappropriate memes, like I'm some
Oh, yeah.
unpopular, so I'll
Yeah.
post things like that. And then I'm kind of thinking, people really, they maybe should have to know you before you branch out into this type of media. But
Yeah. Well, I
I'm
gotcha.
excited to get onto the podcast and yeah, so people can sort of get a better sense of me and get to know me a little bit better.
One thing I like about this podcast or just podcasts in general, but this one is like I like to get to know people, and I'm really interested in small businesses, just how they run and how they started and where they failed and where they succeeded. Like those things are so interesting to me because most people aren't self-employed. You know,
Mhm.
most people work for somebody else, and how so your work early on was a lot of footwork, talking, business cards, meeting people. Now, how is a lot of your work coming in? Do you Is it just organically coming in, just from your website, from your Facebook page? Do you advertise? Where, how are your clients finding you if they're a new client?
It's funny that you say that because I didn't have a website, or I had like a landing page for like a decade, but there was really nothing on it. And
Mhm.
the new site that we've just put up, it's a little bit better, but it still doesn't have as much as it should. And I often have people say, like, where can I see your work? And, where's your portfolio? And I have to actually like physically send it separately because I'm not very tech savvy and I haven't really had to put myself out there like what you're saying for like advertising purposes. I've sort of been blessed in that sense. When I started, I had these certain people asking me, can you come do this, can you come do that, just because they met me and they liked me and they wanted me to come. But the same clients I had way back, I still they'll buy a house, or they'll, something will happen and they'll call me to redo something, doing a renovation or whatever. So I was never forced to really put myself out there. And I always said to myself over the decades, as soon as I run out of clients, then I'm going to build that website. Then I'm going to put myself out there. Then I'm going to advertise.
Mhm.
And it really never happened. There was just sort of always somebody else after that next client. I was, working on one project and someone else would say, like, and, a lot of times, at least for me, it's more like on a personal basis. It's not so much a cold call that comes in and says, like, although, they have happened, they still shock me.
Mhm.
Where did you hear about me? So I'm not
Yeah.
out there. So you would have to know someone who knows me. So
I've
I'm like,
I've
okay,
had that
well,
before where
but
someone will
usually
call
it's
me.
someone who's met me
Yeah.
somewhere.
I've had that where someone will call me and be like, "Hey, can you come look at our floor?" And I'll be like, "How'd you get this number?
Yeah,
How
who
did you
is
know
this?
about me?" Where
Who is this?
I had someone, oh, what was it? I had a doctor's office call me about 6 or 7 months ago, and I went and did their floor. And to this day, I don't know how he found me because I
You
didn't have a
didn't ask him?
website at the. I didn't. I did, but he was like he was very vague about it, and he said something about a restaurant.
Hmm. Oh, but you
But
are
but
stopping by restaurants and handing
uh,
out that card.
there is that. But like he was in not an area I'm ever in. Like he's like 45 minutes from me, and it's not a spot that I'm just hanging out at. And like, and when I did the actual work, it was in after hours, obviously, and somebody had to be there with me because of how their setup was. And he didn't come in with me. Like it was, he had one of his, well, one of his like staff nurses, I guess, that hung out there while I was there doing the work. And I was like, "Do you know where he got my number?" And she's like, "No, I don't know." And to this day, I don't know where he got my number. I don't know how he found me. I mean, it turned into a good job, but still, it's I've had those. Yeah, like how did you find me?
I think that's a good sign, though. I think you're
Yeah,
doing something right.
yeah, maybe so. I mean, I've just here recently in the last 2 weeks, like I just, hey, I looked you up on Google, and when you can you come do our floor? And I did like two in 1 week, and it was like a bizarre thing for me because normally my work comes from other areas, but anyhow, that's that's interesting to me. Like I like I like seeing people be successful. I like people enjoying what they're doing and taking a passion in it. Um, we are we got about probably 10, maybe 15 more minutes. And I do want to kind of circle back around to like, since this is a flooring podcast, what are your opinions on flooring? Like, what's your favorite type to sell? What are your clients' favorite types? What's your contractor's favorite types? And what is most popular in Canada right now?
That's such a tough question.
That's a,
So,
that's a lot of questions
a lot of
in
questions too. You might have to
in one
press my
question. It's a
memory.
lot of questions.
I would say, again, me with my unpopular opinions, a lot of times I'll go to a client's house and they'll say, "We've seen this everywhere. We want this." And I'll tell them all the reasons why they don't want that. And I
Oh.
really feel like that's why you're paying me to tell you why you don't want that.
You don't need
And
paisley carpet. No one needs paisley carpet.
carpet, no, I don't. Unless you're a hotel,
Mhm.
a hallway in a hotel or a cruise ship, I could see some paisley carpet and I would give you the reasons why. But in your own home, less inclined. So for myself, just even as a person, like I tend to be more on the natural side. I don't like chemicals and synthetics and this type of thing. So when it comes to choosing finishes in your home, I also tend more to the natural. I like wood.
Mhm.
I'll mention one flooring type which is often overlooked, but I love it, and that's cork. And
Yeah.
I've been on cork for a little while, actually, a little
Mhm.
while. Yeah. They have it in different styles to the point where you don't even know it's cork. And when you walk on it, it has such absorption for the shock, right? So to
I've
walk on it is
never seen a
fantastic.
cork floor. Never.
Oh, so it's not even on your radar. I love
No.
that. Love that.
What do
It's
is it
pretty
just a
big. I
natural is
want
it
to
just a
say
natural cork floor, or do they put a finish
exactly.
on it, or do they
It's
stain it?
natural cork. Yeah, so it's a natural cork floor. They make it in many different styles. They come in, even the installation can be laid down differently.
Mhm.
Some are in the panels and some are much smaller, and you can lay it very similar to a hardwood. But it's fantastic and it's durable and it's can be used in a lot of areas. So I'll mention just that one because I love that one. Hardwood, always a favorite of mine.
Mhm.
I prefer solid wood if you are going to be in the home for a long time, just because you can continue to refinish and whatnot. I don't mind engineered, if we're in a condo or below grade in a basement, sometimes it's a necessary evil.
Mhm.
My contractor's favorite right now is LVP.
Oh, it's
So
everybody's favorite.
yeah,
It's so
luxury
easy.
vinyl panels.
It's so
He
easy.
loves it.
You click it together, you put it in place, you walk away, no maintenance.
One thing I'll say is that he has sort of brought me over to that side because I remember the day we were with a client and he said to them, it was a main floor, and he said to them, "Oh, you know what would be great here is vinyl." And I felt like this recoil, like, you just told a client we're gonna do vinyl on their main floor. And when we left, I said, like, what are you doing with the vinyl? Wood or engineered or something, right? Help me out. And he said, no, no. He said, I this was obviously years ago, but he said, I've recently found this supplier of it was the first time I'd even had heard LVP, this luxury vinyl plank. And I was like, okay, like I'm open, my ears, I'm listening. And he said, we're going to go by this flooring store and I'm going to show you. So we went, and when I looked at it, I was impressed. I was impressed. This is not your grandmother's vinyl, right?
Hmm.
Because I was thinking like the rolls,
Yeah.
the big, remember the sheets that you have to cut? And I'm thinking, what is this man
You're
offering my
thinking
client?
more like linoleum.
I think so, but we used to call that vinyl. I don't know if
Yeah.
that was just,
I think it's the
I
same
don't know.
thing.
I used to think it's the same thing, but it's not the same thing now. So if a designer or a contractor comes to your house now and they're offering that to you, consider it because it's beautiful. And we've done it in a number of houses now. And once it's installed, it's fantastic. It's, waterproof. If you get the good quality ones, you can basically just, you know, destroy the heck out of this thing and it'll still be looking
Yeah.
great,
Yeah, a
in
lot
busy
of
times.
businesses are switching to it because it's so easily so readily available and very low maintenance, and it looks good almost all the time. Like you don't have to do anything to it, which is uh good for them, bad for me because most of my work is like floor refinishing.
Refinishing.
So it's
It's true.
like so I had a customer that he was talking about replacing their floor. They have VCT tile, vinyl composite tile, the squares,
Yeah.
which has to be stripped and waxed, based on your wear and tear and your needs. And he says, "Well, we're thinking about replacing it, and we were thinking either LVP or an epoxy floor." And
I
you know,
like
I
epoxy too.
I tried to, my recommendation was the epoxy. Number one, because I install that. So
Hmm.
I can at least get that. The LVP, I told him, you know what, it looks good, but it's whatever you want. As if he does LVP, I don't install LVP. So
Okay. We did we had an old it was a furniture warehouse that they wanted to expand the back part of the warehouse into showroom.
hmm
And it was an old concrete floor. And we had the guys come in and use the epoxy, and it brought out like whatever that aggregate. So you can see, and it all depends. You never know what you're going to get
yeah, yeah.
because it all depends on what was laid there originally. And this was beautiful. It was phenomenal. The colors came up. It looked like stones
hmm
was fantastic. So
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the epoxy ever since that job there. But then we did it. There was another one where we did it and it looked just like a concrete. It didn't even come up. So
Yeah.
oh, it was a little bit disappointing.
Well, there's like different ways to do it. Like what you're describing is kind of like a polished concrete where
It
you,
was.
yeah, so it's polished concrete, and that's grinding the
Mhm.
floor so finely it starts to shine. And then you can do epoxy with, you can make epoxy almost look like anything you want if you're good enough with it, which I'm not. I'm still, I've been in flooring for 30 years, but I'm still new to epoxy. Like I've only been in it for probably 3 years, so still figuring that part out. But you can make a epoxy floor look like marble. I've seen guys make it look like wood. Um,
Oh, I love that. I've seen that one too. I was working with a closet design company in Toronto, like custom closets. And they also do custom garages.
mhm.
And there was one client, they'll just do the system part of it. They won't do the rest. So it would work out for me because I'm there already in the house. They're already working with me. And we did a custom garage. And then we did an epoxy floor like what you're talking about. That was just fresh materials. And you get to choose like the color and the style and all of that,
Mhm.
what you're saying. So yeah, there's so many options. That's why you need somebody to help you navigate, right?
Yeah.
All the different choices and like what's best for you. Because, like I say, a client goes in and thinks everything could be for them, and I go in like one or two choices that you've got here. It's pretty
You've got to
easy.
open my eyes because I didn't. Obviously, I've known the term interior designer, but I've never really knew that it was an actual job out there for somebody.
Neither did I until I went to school.
Yeah.
Like I went and got the course catalog, and I was there for personal support work, and I saw interior design. I thought, is this a job? This is
Mhm.
an option? Because in my mother's generation, it really wasn't, right? We only had one school in Canada. It was Ryerson was the only place, and then Vancouver had one school. And I mean, that was within recent memory, right? So, and now I'm of the generation where a lot of the women, either my age or older than me, a little bit older than me, sort of my mentor's generation, none of them went to school. There was no school.
Mhm.
So they're trying to regulate the industry now to have certain credentials, but the top designers that you would know
Mhm.
haven't been to school at all for design, right? It's all just their own life experience, and you can't buy that. So,
You mentioned earlier before we started recording that you're kind of international, that you do work all over the world too. Do you travel, or is that virtual, or both?
both.
Both.
So, it can be cost prohibitive to have people fly their designer in.
Hmm.
Certainly, we had a house. They were my client in the city, and I had worked with them for years. And they had a vacation home outside of the city, but too far for me to drive
Hmm.
reasonably. And they sent me there to work on that vacation home. They paid for my travel expenses, they paid for me to stay, and then they did the design on top of that. So there's that is available certainly, but most clients, their budget would be more virtual
Hmm.
online design. So we could absolutely come up with a plan and guide you through having an online consultation, very similar to what we're doing now, except I would need photos and that type of thing. And yeah, we definitely do it for, it doesn't really matter. You could be down the street and have a virtual consultation, and you could be in the Philippines and have a virtual
Ah,
consultation. So,
my wife is from the Philippines.
see, one of my very good friends is from the Philippines. So I actually just did her kitchen, so that she was fresh to
Uh,
mind.
I gotcha. Yeah, my wife, she was born and raised there, and we've been married 8 years, and we've been back a couple of times. It's been a while. It's been a little over a year since went back down there, but it's hot. It's too hot
City
for
is
me.
she?
What's that?
Which which city is she from?
Oh, she's outside Manila.
Yeah, same with my friend. Yeah.
She's yeah, it's Metro Manila. But it's not far, but it takes hours to get there because of the traffic. Like it's probably literally like maybe 15 miles, but it's a good 3 hour drive because of the traffic. Have you ever been?
I have not, but I would love to go. I would
It
love to go. She's back and forth a lot, so it could
it's
happen.
it's an interesting country, and the travel there to get there is long. It takes forever to get there.
That's the downside.
Like we flew this last time we flew Nashville to Los Angeles, which is 4 hours, and then Los Angeles direct to Manila, which I paid extra to get direct there from
I
the
have
U.S.
to.
That way we didn't have to take our kids through an international layover in Shanghai or something like that. But that
Yeah.
direct flight from L.A. there was like 15 hours. So one time I flew there when she was still back home, and I flew by myself, and I flew from Chattanooga, where I live in Tennessee, Chattanooga to Detroit, and then which was like 2 hours, and then Detroit to Hong Kong. Yeah, Hong Kong. 19 hours.
Detroit to Hong Kong. I like it.
19 hours, and I had a window seat, and I'm 6'3",
Ooh,
and it was,
tight.
it, you know, it was what it was, but. Um, Anyhow, we're rolling in on an hour right now. Anything else you feel like you'd like people to know, or there's topics that you'd want to discuss real quick before we get off here?
Well, that's a tough question with me because I always have more to say,
You always
but
got a lot to say. Yeah.
I think that's a good introduction for today. My hope in coming on was um number one, to sort of just put a little bit more of myself out there for
Mhm.
people who don't know me in person. But also, I wanted for your listeners to add sort of a different element, which is still relative to flooring
Mhm.
and would be interesting to your audience, but just sort of a different aspect because I think that, just like you said, you're interested in, small businesses. People are interested in the design world in the sense of, like you said, like, how do you find a designer? How do you hire one? How do you get your clients? That kind of thing. So, and, we've established with me, you sort of have to either meet me in the wild or you have to know someone who recommends me through
Well, I
there.
think. like I think a lot of the guys or individuals that listen to this are in the business.
Mhm.
They're in the flooring business in some capacity or another. And thinking about it just selfishly to myself, like how beneficial would it be for me and my business if I had a working friendship with someone like you that was local? Or even like just having a friendship with you, because you never know. You might get a client that's in my neck of the woods, you know. So
Definitely.
you never know.
Definitely. And for me, what I started doing when I worked with contractors, because at this point I actually have more than one contractor now that I'm working with. And if there's contractors even listening to this who, like you said, are wondering like how I could be beneficial to them in their work, what I've done is for clients, if you hire me directly, it's $100 an hour.
Mhm.
So you're charged per hour, as many hours as you use. If it's a contractor who hires me, I have set package pricing.
Mhm.
So it would be, a certain price for, I do like a small kitchen, small bathroom, large bathroom, basements. And so it's a package because typically the contractors just want kitchens, bathrooms, and basements. And then I'll have a certain number of hours and a certain package price. So what happens is they can go to their client and they can offer it as an add-on. So if the client says, we've chosen this flooring and we know what we want, great. You don't need a designer. But if they do have that client that we mentioned earlier that says, I've been in this flooring store for 3 hours and I'm more confused than ever and I don't know what to do. And the contractor really, like my contractor says, I don't have time to go to the store and hold your hand. But I do have this add-on surface. We have a designer. I like to say an in-house designer or, an on-staff designer that is available for 5 hours. And this is the additional cost to your renovation. And the contractors that I work with have found that to be quite an easy sell to people because the contractor, it's so easy for them. Like I do everything, literally choose the grout, every last thing,
Mhm.
so it works out
I
usually
could
pretty
see how
well.
that could be really beneficial, actually. Like me and my wife, um we currently rent, but we are actively house shopping. We haven't picked anything out yet, but we're looking, and it'll be our first house that we've owned together. And
Nice. Very
um,
nice.
I could see how trying to design or decorate, paint, color scheme, I could see how that would be beneficial. Hire you to just look at things and say, why don't we do this or this or this? Like, what's your furniture like? Let's do this, let's do that. And I could see that
Exactly.
because I could also see me and my wife going to Lowe's and to Home Depot and me just finally giving up and just be like, just pick something.
It
Just
is.
I simply don't care. Just pick something.
You get to
So,
that point,
mhm,
and as a designer, like I always joke, like I have to be a little bit of a therapist, I have to be a little bit of a marriage counselor,
mhm,
I have to have sort of a little bit of everything worked in there. So
yeah.
we're prepared for that for sure. And I don't know, I'm sort of like the male advocate. Like I really don't like when the woman is sort of choosing everything. So I'm very like, well, what does your husband think? And have you showed it to him? And like I'm very, because it's his house too, so I don't think a lot of designers are looking at it from that
My wife
aspect
doesn't
either.
care that it's my house too. She wants what she wants. So,
I don't like that. I see that a lot,
but in truthfully, like I don't really like when it comes to when we buy a house, when we finally do buy a house, like I really don't care as long as I don't like loud color schemes. Like I don't want like the walls to be like pow. Like I prefer just kind of neutral colors, like neutral earth tones. Those are the colors I like. And then I don't want carpet. I don't
Mhm.
like carpet. We have a golden retriever. Well, he's a black golden retriever, so he's got long hair and he sheds, so carpet's going to be everywhere.
Mhm.
Or
That's
the
important.
hair will get everywhere. So I don't want carpet. So I'm open on floors other than that. But other than that, like I, I want her to be happy. So like just pick this stuff out. But then like part of what I want in a house though, like what I don't have here is an office. I don't have an office. Right now, I am set up in a junk room. It is a room off of our basement that is literally full of junk. And if I was to turn the camera around, you would literally see an old woman's just junk room full of stuff. So like the when we move, my thing is like I need an office, which will double as a podcast studio, which will double as a podcast studio for this, and then like not only a garage because she parks her car in the garage here, but like a garage, but also like a shop where I can keep all my equipment. So like I feel like once we buy a house, she can decorate the house however what makes her happy. But my office, my shop, that'll be my place, and I'll decorate it how I want it decorated. And
I like that.
I'll have my Batman poster there somewhere, and
Yes.
my
Yes.
I don't know whatever else I have.
I like it.
Yeah,
Well, I can always help you on the virtual design when you're ready.
I might just do that.
It's too bad that I didn't live closer to you
Hmm.
because, of course, because I'm not doing enough. I'm also studying for my realtor's license.
Oh, okay.
So soon I'll be doing the full, I can sell the house, stage the house, buy the new house, design the new house.
Hmm.
I'll be your one-stop shop in
Uh,
Canada anyway.
yeah, sell the house. That's actually a really good idea. Like, sell the house and design it. Like, they don't have to do anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna set up my own movers
Hmm.
and then I'll have full vertical integration set up.
Yeah. One thing I do for my business is garage floor epoxy, like the just the flake floor.
Mhm.
I don't know if in Canada, but here they're
Yeah,
really
we have.
popular.
Yeah.
They also do like the metallic floor, which swirly colors and
Mhm.
very decorative. That's not really big where I live because it's more of a higher end customer
Yeah.
that wants those. And there are areas that probably have that, but I don't know if I'm on their radar at this time.
Hmm.
But one thing I've started doing, you mentioned it like something about movers. I just thought of this. A lot of the reasons people don't do the epoxy floor is because they have stuff in their garage
Hmm.
and then they don't have a place to put it while their floor is getting done. And so
Yeah.
one thing I've started utilizing is U-Haul. I don't know if you have them in
Okay.
Canada. U-Haul
Yep.
has these rental pods that they'll
I was
deliver
gonna
to your
say we have
house.
actual, they're called pods. I don't know if that's the
Yeah.
company name. I always see pods. I drive around, I see them.
Yeah, it's similar, and you can just they'll drop it off in the driveway,
Mhm.
and I can arrange all that encompassed into the price, and even if they want, I can arrange some guys to go in there and help them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it that has facilitated a lot of work.
Hmm.
So
If
just
people
by take
trust you,
just by
they'd rather
taking
you
that little bit off of their plate, they just one less thing, two less things they got to worry about. Where do I put it and how do I move it? You know?
Yeah, that's it. Because you have to have someone that you trust, and
Yeah,
that goes for anything that you need done in your
yeah,
house. And my clients, like, even if I don't have someone, they know that if they reach out to me, I would know someone or know
yeah,
someone who knows someone. Like,
yeah.
either way, you can come to me and like we'll get it done for sure.
Well, we've been going right at about an hour, and I remembered something from earlier. You said you're from Newfoundland. Is it
Yep.
Newfoundland or Newfoundland? Because I can never remember. Or is it
Newfoundland.
Newfoundland?
Newfoundland. Yeah.
Newfoundland. Okay. Because one of my favorite dogs is the Newfoundland dog. The
Oh, yes. Beauty.
I don't
What a
have
beauty.
I don't own one, but I want one because they're just so big and fluffy, and I want one.
They're actually very smart
Hmm.
dogs. And despite the size of them, because they're enormous, they're actually used as rescue dogs.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that, and I like big dogs. I like big, giant dogs. And like the dog I have now, he's actually one of the. He's a black lab golden retriever mix. Mom was a black lab, dad was golden retriever, and he looks like a golden retriever but with black hair. And he's
Yeah.
actually small. He's one of the small. He's 65 pounds, and he's one of the smallest ones I've ever had. Previously, I had a golden retriever that was like 100 pounds. He was a monster, but I like big dogs. So I like big, fluffy dogs.
Me too. I like big dogs too, because nobody breaks in when you have a big dog.
They don't. My dog is the most friendliest dog in the world, and the mailman is afraid of him. Like all of them. Like the FedEx guy won't even come to my house. Like he leaves
I don't
packages.
know who's friendly and who's not. That's what I like
Like
about them.
I don't know. It's like. he I don't know. It is what it is. Well, anyhow, how can people get in touch with you if they listen to this podcast and they want to get in touch with you? What's a good way
Yeah,
for them to find you?
the best way I'd probably say is maybe go to my website.
Mhm.
So that's my name, which is Alana, Alana, Kelleher, Kelleher.com.
Okay.
And then my email is info@alanakelleher.com. So you can email me. I'm also on Facebook. If you're airing this on Facebook, you can always tag me and people can reach out to me through
Mhm.
Facebook as well.
That's right. All right. Well, I've enjoyed it.
Yes, I
Alana
had a great time.
Kelleher from Toronto,
Yes, Canada.
Canada. Yeah, I remember when we set this up, I was thinking to myself, that's interesting. An
That's an
interior
interesting one.
designer, interior design from Canada.
Yeah,
But it was
Canadian
a good
design.
conversation.
Yeah, I think it turned out well. So hopefully everyone else who was listening enjoyed it and learned something.
Hmm.
As long as they take something away from it, then I'd say it was a success.
That's the important part. All right.
Exactly.
Well, we'll talk to you later and we'll have you back on again soon.
That's great. Wonderful. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Have a good
Bye.
day.
Have a great rest of your day.